Hello and welcome to the Week 14 review of the Fantasy League. As you can see, our location has changed because the commission's out of town, so I have a different GM, Ben's Champions.
Otherwise known as the Godfather.
Yes.
Looking forward to putting some logic into these videos this week.
Yes, I guess that may have been a backhanded compliment. I don't know.
Take it as it is.
Take it as it is. Okay. So we're going to look at the matchups from last week. First of all, I lost last week. A 9-5 Zips victory. Did you see anything interesting in that matchup?
Well, and I actually had a call-in last night.
A call-in?
With the Zips. It was not really the reason why I spoke with him, but I was stunned to learn that the Zips chose to bench 4 guys in an attempt to win batting average and on-base percentage because the 4 batters were facing Kershaw. To my knowledge, Jason, nobody in history has ever purposely benched hitters on a Sunday and not replaced them for absolutely no reason against a specific pitcher. And as the Zips and I had discussed last night, it probably did not work out because Hosmer had a huge day. However, the stats against Kershaw aren't good, and so I understand what he was thinking there.
Yeah.
What was your input on that decision?
Yeah, I didn't know that's why he did it. I thought it was weird. On the text thread, I mentioned it. I said, does anybody know why Bob Zips does not have a first baseman today?
Right.
And that was it was surprising to me because he had other first basemen who he could have put there. It wasn't just because he could have. There's guys with multiple eligibility position-wise that he could have slid in.
Let's be honest, Bob. You hate Will Myers. I could think of like 5 guys right now that'll take him. So I don't know if you watch the videos, but if you are, put him on the market because if you would rather not play anybody than play Will Myers, then why is he on your roster, buddy? Send him out. We'll take him.
Yeah. Now, fortunately for Bear Bashers, the teams behind him didn't do very well either this week.
No.
Yeah. So the next matchup we have with a 13-2 drubbing of Ben's Champions. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
Well, as the GM and owner of Ben's Champions, I got to tell you, we were very disappointed. Now, disappointed in the score, not really in the team performance. And as I've shared with you numerous times, I've been trying to sort of build a team rather than play season to season. However, this year, I thought that my team was close. And I still believe they're close, even after losing. But the big factor for me was Team V's on-base percentage, batting average. He had, I think, 4 or 5 guys that, for the week, hit over 350. I couldn't stop guys like Altuve all week, who just raked all week. And, I mean, Houston absolutely trashed Toronto the whole weekend.
Yeah.
He had Votto was good. Basically, most of his team just absolutely destroyed me. So there will be analysis done. You can't lose that way, just like I lost to you the week before, and say everything's great. So we got to get our act together. And I will be having some conversations with management. We are going to be making some changes with the roster over the next 4 days.
4 days? Get your offers in now.
Yeah, Ben's Champions does not take kindly to a butt kicking that I received yesterday. Thank you.
But now it is theoretically 2 consecutive butt kickings, right?
They're both equally painful. And may I also add, I just want to make this point because I think it's essential. I probably cost myself 8 points in poor decision making. And I say that because yesterday, for example, I clearly would have won home runs had I played Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I made a decision that cost me 3 points against Chuck. And then against you, I made some poor pitching decisions. So what I have to look at is maybe I'm making too many decisions on a week-to-week basis. It's time to just put a roster I feel good about and hammer it out there. So we'll see what happens.
Let me ask you, since you are the owner, is it possible to fire the GM, which is yourself? Can you fire yourself?
Okay,
and let
that's a
someone
great
else?
question.
Yeah.
I fired myself back in 2012.
Okay.
And I reinstated manager from 2006 to 2009 Ben's Champions.
Okay.
As you know, then in 2015, I got upset at the beginning of the year over Travis trade or whatever, and then I swore off the league for the year.
Oh.
But frankly, I have no excuses this year, and I think right now it is possible to fire the owner. However, I can assure you that I will replace him with an equally qualified owner management structure that's going to propel us to a huge second half of the year.
Okay. And I mean, right now, you have now if the playoffs started today, you would not be in. That's where you're at.
And that would suck royally. So we got to get our act together.
Next matchup, Five Swords gets back into the win column with a 9-5 win over Alaska Glaciers. Looking at this matchup, both teams hit under 250.
Yes, I did look at the matchup closely. The factor was Five Swords had just a bullpen that was dominating for the week. The biggest factor for Five Swords, and you know, you heard it a million times, you hear it from me in text messages, your team has potential, but it never turns into reality. This week it turned into some reality. As far as Alaska Glaciers, I love his team, I love his roster, I love his superstars, but from top to bottom, it's not strong enough to compete most weeks right now. So he'll have to look at making some changes. It's his middle tier. He still has the best 4 or 5 players that anybody could want to have, but there's just that huge gap between the guys that are doing stuff and the guys that aren't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that he can't. He needs to try to get to. I mean, if you have Goldschmidt, you can beat anybody, right?
You should win. You should win most weeks with Goldschmidt,
Yeah.
Betts, Bryce Harper.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few other names that are escaping me now, but it's unbelievable. And the thing about it is, I think Alaska Glaciers team talent, even the guys that aren't performing have talent. But like he picked up 2 guys that I cut, Carpenter and Odor. And I cut them because their potential wasn't meeting their production. And essentially, that's what happens when you have talented guys. And the biggest problem that I think you have sometimes in our league is you have guys that are good, but they're not performing. And then you have that battle with, do I cut them, do I keep them? Because it's a keeper league, and you have to look more than just 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it costs you. And I think in Alaska Glacier's case, he has guys that really probably should be cut, but they're too good to cut in theory because of potential, and so he ends up getting beat with them.
Yeah. The next matchup we have Pine Tree Lane with a 10-6 win over Globo Gym. I didn't look at this closely. Basically, the understanding that I got is that Pine Tree Lane just had an amazing week. Remember, that's what was said in the text thread.
Chuck said amazing, and I will say Pine Tree Lane, to his credit, 9 wins. 1 loss, 1 complete game, 1.85 ERA, 1.02 WHIP, and this is what Pine Tree Lane does. And when he's in his lane, it's pitching. In all the years that I've played, I've never liked playing his team because the pitching just comes out and just bludgeons you. But the truth of the matter is that for most of this year, I have not feared his pitching staff. Right. So the question is his staff now on? Or did he have a great week with pitchers that aren't really that good?
It's a good theory. Even though yes, Pine Tree Lane did have a really strong, especially pitching week. 7 of the 10 wins came from pitching. I'm looking here, and Globo Gym had a 3.84 ERA and a 1.38 WHIP anyway.
Right.
So it wasn't like those pitching stats.
It's
really
not
mattered.
good enough. And I'll just say this to Globo Gym, who I'm a huge fan of, as you know, and I told Globo Jim he's getting some love today, well, especially when we talk about some other stuff later on.
Yeah.
He has names. I had a pitching staff like that a couple years ago, where the names were good, it's too good to cut, but they weren't really performing. And so you go down the list, and you look at guys like Cueto, and you look at guys like Archer, and you look at guys like Hamels, and the names are there, but is the production matching? Now, this past week, it looks like Hamels had a good start. But those are things you got to worry about, and it is a concern. And I've been there, where you have a guy that's, again, it goes back to the same thing that's in the last matchup. Too good to cut, or too famous to cut, but not performing. And you got to figure out what to do. On the offensive side, I just want to add, Globo Gym would have destroyed just about anybody.
Yes,
I mean, he
that's
lost
true.
he did lose 4 categories that probably most people he would have beat. So it was really, like I said, it was really because of Pine Tree Lane's pitching. But it's what Pine Tree Lane does. And I mean, I've always said, when his pitching is at his best, he's going to beat people because that's what he does. He's got the best regular season record, I think, in our league and all the years we played because the guy, his pitching staff is just, it's like a mountain you can't get around.
Yeah. And then the final matchup of the week, Team Joe Boo with an 11-4 win. This was a big win for Joe Boo because Joe Boo was fading.
Yes, he was.
He really needed a big win here, and he got it with an 11-4 win over All Rise.
Here's my thoughts about Joe Boo. You're the champion until somebody knocks you off. So even though the record says maybe 5th place, I'm guessing, I haven't actually looked.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
You're number 1 until somebody beats you. The problem with Joe Boo is even when he's in 5th place, he's tough to play against. When you got guys like Springer, you know, he's having a terrible year out of guys like Miguel Cabrera, but you never know. Miguel Cabrera in August and September could look and say, look, I'm healthy now, I'm going to hit like you know what, and all of a sudden a huge tap. You're the champion until you're not the champion. And so I'm afraid of Team Joe Boo. I was afraid when I played against him. I'm afraid of him now because his team oozes with talent despite his record, probably.
Now, maybe I'm asking the wrong guy but I still feel like All Rise has too many Yankees.
Okay, All Rise. You have too many Yankees. How do I know? Because I had too many Orioles.
Yeah.
You got to diversify, okay? First of all, you've gotten 50 offers from me for Judge and Sanchez. I don't know what you're waiting for. I think they were fantastic offers. Let's make a deal. But let's say, for argument's sake, that's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. Then you need to diversify. And again, you have talent, and you have pieces that if you put them up for a trade, people will take. And there are free agents that could probably fill some of the holes you have. All Rise, I don't want to tell you this because obviously I don't want to miss the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But you're good enough. Now you need to make some tweaks to make the playoffs. I'm not sure you'd make enough noise to get all the way to the finals, but you can get there. Your decision right now is, am I all in or am I fooling around? And if you're all in, then All Rise can go places.
Yeah. And another thing that sort of rose an eyebrow of mine, he picked up Justin Bour. Did you see that?
I did see that. You bastard! I was going to pick him up!
But I believe the only reason that All Rise picked him up was because the rumor is the Yankees are very interested in him. And that's another Yankee if that's what happens.
It could happen.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this, okay? When you have a whole team in your lineup, it cost me this week with the Cubs and the Orioles. Mm-hmm. You put 3 or 4 guys from the same team, they get shut out or they score 1 run. You've lost 4 hitters. You didn't lose 1, you've lost 4. You lost RBIs, you've lost run potential, all because one pitcher shut that team out. I learned the hard way. Learn from me.
Yeah.
Do not have 5 guys from the same team.
Right.
Or 4 or whatever.
And another thing that weather can always really affect that too.
Yes.
Because, yeah.
Absolutely.
If you have a bad weather
right.
System come through at a weekend and 2 of the 3 games get rained out or something.
It's a killer.
It's
a killer.
Absolutely okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that was all the matchups. So let's look at the streaks that we've got now.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like V is up to an 8-game winning streak, I believe.
I don't, honestly, and I say this with true faith, I don't see anybody beating him in the regular season for the rest of the year unless he has a bad week.
Right.
And I say that because he hit 350 against me, and you got to recognize that. However, and he knows I'm going to say this,
mm-hmm.
and he'll take the regular season win. I know him. He's like, if I win regular season, that pays. That's good enough for me. Some of the guys he's using are not always the ones that show up in the postseason when you got to beat somebody. And he knows I'm going to say this.
Right.
I always say it. Stars win in the playoffs. You can have a great team for the regular season, but you need stars to win the playoffs. So if his stars show up in the playoffs, then he's going to stomp all of us. But if any of them get hurt or they get shut down because the teams are bad, and then what happens is the hocus pocus fleas that kind of fill your categories throughout the year, they come back, they end up disappearing when you need them the most. Again, history has shown that doesn't always happen, so we'll see.
Yeah. Did you see that?
No, I missed it.
I just received a commish from a text from the commish.
What'd he say?
It says, "You suck." That's all it says.
Ah,
So I don't know what that
Yeah,
means.
maybe that was for me. Maybe it was for you. And in my case, I would have to accept that because, in fact, I have lost like 26 or 27 to like 2 in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out though.
So the longest losing streak, it's kind of because of the way it's been sort of, 50-50 booking
Right.
going through here. The only one we thought we would talk about is Alaska Glaciers.
Alaska Glaciers lost 3 out of 4,
3 out of
and
4.
one of those was a tie. So really, if you say he
Yeah.
hasn't won in 4 weeks, I haven't won in 2 weeks. Andy has fallen back a little bit. But I'll say this about Alaska Glaciers and myself. Our teams are probably better than our record, so you got to look at the person running the show. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then look, I love Alaska Glaciers, and Tom's awesome. Tom has to make changes, or he has to say, my program is such that this isn't my year. Again, there's nothing wrong, as I always tell you guys, sometimes you just have to admit it's not your year, but I love this. This is a keeper league, and I love this roster, and so I'm willing to, go off the cliff with this crew if that's how it's going to be. Tom may decide that. And I have to make that decision too if my record doesn't improve, because, sometimes the talent is there, but the talent's not playing now. And you need guys that are playing now if you want to win now.
Yeah, that's true. There was only one trade, and we sort of mentioned it in last week's video, but we had to wait for it to be processed before we talk about it. Ryan Zimmerman from Pine Tree Lane going to Zips for Michael Conforto.
When Pine Tree Lane raised the white flag a couple weeks ago, before he ended up back in 6th place, and now he's probably going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I know.
Zimmerman was a guy I targeted because I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to get him. He's having a career year. He's hitting 333. With one asterisk, and that being that Ryan Zimmerman gets hurt every year. Now, I love his stats, and I love his potential, and I love his position because it helps not getting hurt, maybe playing first base. The problem is you got to ask yourself, are the Nationals snake bitten? And I only say that because you lose Eaton, you lose Turner. I mean, there does come a point when, of all those guys, at some point you think that Zimmerman could be next to targeted in terms of the injury bug. On the other hand, Conforto, and then we'll take your point of view also. I think Conforto is a star in the making. However, he has to stay healthy. I wanted him for 3/4 of the year from Bob. Pulled back a little bit because of the fact he never was playing. And now with the Mets, it feels like they might try to play all their vets for the next 2 or 3 weeks to try to actually trade them. So I could see Conforto getting a lot of do-not plays, even though he might be healthy, just because they want to fill that spot with a guy they're hoping to trade. So I don't know that it helps for this year, but I think he's a stud for the future.
Yeah, I agree with the health issue there with Conforto, because if you're a young player and you're getting hurt that much, what's going to happen when you're 30?
Right.
Are you going to get hurt more? You know what I mean?
This brings me to a Ben's Champions axiom I actually have up on a spreadsheet. Guys that always get hurt, always get hurt. I've had that since I started doing fantasy sports. I don't know how long ago. I have a list of 5 rules that I follow every year, and that's one of them. Guys that always get hurt, always get hurt. It just never changes. You can wish for health, but health is, like some things, is a skill.
Yeah. So, do you want to get into the research that you did with your...
Yes. I didn't really have a hot topic.
No hot topics.
But I did do some research because I knew I'd be here today. Most years I posted on the website the average age of teams, and I'll explain, not to get too technical and boring with you. I take the outliers out. So your youngest and your oldest player I take out of the equation because they can kind of sway your results. And the 2 youngest team in the league was myself at age 26.5 and Jessen at age 26.8, Pine Tree Lane. And then the older teams in the league came as a shock. Globo Gyms at 29.8 is the oldest team in the league. And then followed up shortly behind them was 5 Swords and Bear Bashers. And I would tell 5 Swords, that needs to get fixed quick. If you're not going to be competitive this year, if you think you have a run in you in the next 7 weeks, then you make your move. But if not, there's nothing worse than being the oldest team and the worst team. You either need to be playing to win or playing to get better. Doing anything else in between there is pointless, in my point of view.
Yeah, no, I mean that's true. It is really surprising to me that Globo Gym is that old.
Right. Now, his prospect list is robust. So,
Right, but what do prospects do? Get GMs fired. That's what prospects do. So I don't know if prospects are that exciting or not.
Right.
I mean, sometimes they are.
right.
Sometimes they're not.
Yep.
Let me get your take because it's been a hot topic during the season of Alex Bregman, who's been traded, and I mean he's been on 4 different teams.
I
now.
love Bregman. I love him.
Yeah.
And I do think I love him. I love the team. Again, Alex Bregman should not be starting for somebody who wants to win a championship this year. Someone like maybe Five Swords should have Alex Bregman.
Yeah, I get that.
Pine Tree Lane, if they're rebuilding, if that's his
Yeah.
plan, should have Alex Bregman. I tried to get him numerous times this year. Stupid. Globo Gyms had him. Not for him. Alaska Glacier, we can go right down the list as certain people have him for certain reasons. I think he's going to be a star. I know a lot of people don't agree. I think there's star there. It's not going to happen this year. And I think it probably is the best type of player to have on a rebuilding team. But I would not want him in August, September. Unless he really heats up. Because Houston's got so many players right now. And that lineup is tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So who's the youngest team? Did you actually say that?
It is myself, 26.5. That was not an accident. I know a lot of you guys spend a lot of, or I was about to say, waste your time getting ready for the draft at the beginning of the year trying to get all those rookies. But what happens is a lot of times they underperform or as soon as they start to struggle a little bit, you panic. So my idea is I'd rather have my lineup be young and then I don't have to worry about that so much. And I'm not surprised. I mean, I got to tell you, despite getting my butt kicked for the last 2 weeks, I love my roster. I think I got almost a star or future star at every position in the making. I know what my weaknesses are, mostly batting average on base. So I'm pleased with that. And Pine Tree Lane being the youngest team is a little scary because if he were to finish in the playoffs now, the argument would be for me is how's he getting worse in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years?
No, I wouldn't think that he would at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's got Correa and a couple other guys that.
What are your thoughts on Manny Machado?
Okay, Manny, if you're watching,
And he is.
You cannot hit a 10-run homer. It's physically not possible in Major League Baseball. So when you get up to bat and you look at the scoreboard and you see you're hitting 220 and you see you got 40 RBIs, you cannot get 7 hits with that at-bat and you're not going to hit a 10-run homer. So instead of trying to get it all back with one swing, as you've been doing for the last 28 days, and I've watched every game, every inning, start taking it at bat by at bat and build it back because the talent's there.
Mm-hmm.
He had that huge day a couple days ago.
Yeah, the
I
two
missed
home
it,
run
didn't
day.
have him in because
Yeah.
I just gave up. He's hitting 220,
Right.
0 for 4s, 0 for 5s every day, and I finally said I can't play this guy anymore. And of course he went off. And I would actually give the sentiment guy on my team, Chris Bryant. It's the same thing. You can't get all those stats back in one game. So just take it bit by bit. The talent is there, but until he stops swinging for the fences for Machado, there's not going to be an improvement until he realizes that because he's trying to do it all in one at bat. It's not going to happen.
Now, I had this conversation with the commish. I want to know your thoughts. I think this season, though, because he struggled so much, might be the only way that he re-signs with the Orioles.
Yes,
What do you think about that?
I love Machado and Scope and Mancini for the future. I think that would be just a tremendous, kind of setup for the infield. This could help them.
Yeah,
And in fact,
that's what I
looked
think.
at their long-term scenario. You say you're going to keep Davis and you keep Trumbo because they have to. They're on the contract. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of money on the books after that. They could afford it if they want to, but guys, it's the Orioles, and we're
Right.
so cheap. It's. I mean, they got to keep him. My heart would be broken. He goes to the Yankees. I'll be devastated. It'll be Mike Mussina all over again. And honestly, I won't even talk to All Rise for like 3 years.
Well, the thing is that I don't see the Yankees ponying up now. This season would be enough to scare him away from a huge contract, don't you
Yeah,
think?
it's possible. I will say this. This is the last I'm going to say because I don't want to take up too much time. I've watched every Orioles game possible.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Davis has done it in the money time. Adam Jones has done it in the money time. I can't think of one time that Manny Machado got up with the game on the line, 8th or 9th inning, and actually got a hit or a homer. That's
So you're
shocking.
saying he's not clutch is essentially what you're
I'm
trying
saying that he's not the first guy that I would give the biggest contract to, even
Right.
though I love him.
to say. I gotcha. Okay.
I would rather have Harper.
Yeah. You mean if you're the Yankees? Because that's kind of
Yankees
what
or
it boils down
anybody.
to.
If those are the two teams that are out to get Machado or Harper that year, you go for Harper.
I hear that the Phillies might be a big player in Harper
I believe that.
because they have so much. They have how
Phillies
they
have
so much
they
money.
have an
It's ridiculous.
abundance of wealth, and the Phillies have an abundance of talent in the minors too. The Phillies will be awesome again. Unlike where the Orioles, they went in that rebuild and never got out of it for like 15
Right.
years. That will not be the Phillies. And when they get good, they'll get good in a hurry. And their stadium is tenacious. If they were to get back to getting some power hitters, I mean, I won 4 championships on Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, and 1 year it was Dominic Brown, and it was because their stadium. I mean, honestly, it's unbelievable for hitting.
Yeah. And one other topic that we didn't get your take on before.
Sure.
And I just think it's interesting because I literally just received
A text.
6 minutes ago.
Okay.
This is from Globo Gym. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Globo Gym states, this prospect system is terrible. I can't believe Jason is allowed to own Luke Weaver, but not have to roster him since he's a reliever currently. What a joke. Jeesh, Kamish, worst system ever. What a disadvantage for Jason to be able to do that. Which, is, of course, is him tongue-in-cheek being
Yes.
sarcastic.
Yes.
Now, the thing is, because he's saying, oh, I still have the rights to such a player like Luke Weaver.
Right.
I can care less about Luke Weaver right now.
That's right.
The only reason I have him is because there's this prospect
That's right.
system.
I understand. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. I 100% understand.
So, what are your thoughts on this, amazing prospect system where we are able to just pick and choose guys whenever we want?
I voted for it. I love the idea. What I don't like was the things that have turned into holes have not been fixed. I only have 2 things, and the commission knows how I feel about this, so I'll just say it publicly. To me, you build a program, a guy gets over 150 at-bats, but then he gets sent back to minors because it starts to stink, and now you've lost that guy. So to me, it shouldn't be a prospect list, it should be a minor league list, so that you can have a guy that gets sent back down to the minors. So I would get rid of that 150, and I would also say that if a guy's in the majors, he should be on your team playing. I think having a guy just on the list, but not playing, the whole thing is preposterous. If the guy's in the real major leagues, then he should be on your team, playing right now. That's what I believe. And look, I'm taking advantage of the system. I'm picking up guys because that's what the rules allow.
Right.
But, like, for example, I own this Moore dude from Seattle who's had 3 great starts. I'm basically just freely scouting him right now. I have no idea if he's good or not, but I got 50 innings to figure it out. That should be wrong. I should have him on my team right now, and he should either be pitching for me or he should be a free agent.
Right, and I know that the commission's argument is, well, you have, it creates tough decisions to make.
Yeah.
Because you still have to cut someone to add more.
That's right.
But who cares if you cut your reliever holds guy?
That's right.
The
commission's not wrong. He's saying it makes you make good decisions. My argument is that you still have to make those decisions when they come up. And that's what it is. That's the name of the game. There's not an easy fix. I'm not mad, like I told him on a text message. I'm not mad at the system because I know it's what we thought was the best. I'm disappointed that we aren't looking to fix it. Now maybe fixing it the way I want to isn't the way he wants to, so that's their choice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll take a break now.
Ah, yes.
And then we'll get our power rankings ready.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Ready for the power rankings. Okay, now much to Team Joe Boo's disappointment, there's no flexing going on, correct?
Yes, it's not in my forte.
Not
There are weights over there from when I was like 18 that I have looked at a few times, but
yeah, I do see them over there.
Yeah, they've been there since I moved here.
But so power rankings. We are going to start with the number 6 team. Who do you have at number 6?
I have Team Joe Boo as number 6.
Team Joe Boo at number 6.
And I'll give my explanation. I think Joe Boo's team is one of the best potential, but it has underperformed. I think he's capable of better. I think mostly I blame his pitching. Now, he has made moves to correct the pitching, adding guys that are having a better year this year. But, he has the Lesters, the Arrietas, and, the Cubs have just underperformed, and it's gone all around. And then when I look at Joe Boo's lineup, strong, But, you're playing Beltre at third base. Is he really going to last the whole year? You have a guy like Miguel Cabrera, who's now looks like Miguel Cabrera is finally aging.
Yes, that's definitely true.
Springer is having an amazing year, but there's one thing Springer hasn't done yet this year.
What's that?
And that's going disabled list.
Well, he has been healthy all year.
And that is something that happens. Kyle Seager doesn't impress me. I love Jake Lamb, though. I think Lamb, he's in the right stadium for his talent. Jake Lamb in the AL East is probably a 250 hitter with 30 homers, 100 RBIs. We've got plenty of those. But maybe in Arizona he gets a little bump in batting average. And then I think he's going to, Joe Boo's got to deal with Carlos Gonzalez because is he going to get better? Is he done? Everybody's sort of figuring that out. And right now, Colorado, they've got plenty of guys in the pipeline. I mean, there's not a, it's not a case where the seat's cold if he gets up. There's plenty of warm bodies ready to roll. So that's got to happen. I don't know. I mean, Joe Boo is the champ until you're not the champ. He's the champ today. He's the champ tomorrow. He's the champ next week. He's the champ a month from now. But for him to be a repeat champ, not with this roster. Something's got to be fixed.
Now, my number 6 is actually Ben's Champions.
Yes.
I've dropped him down to number 6 just because of the last 2 weeks he's taken a couple of beatings. So, yeah. So, now, actually, as we discussed earlier, if the playoffs started today, he would not be in, but he's only a game
Not
now.
in. That's a fact.
I still believe the team that is at 6 right now is Pine Tree Lane, and I still would take as today's roster, not in a keeper format. Obviously, I think Pine Tree Lane has a brighter future than you.
I disagree, but I understand.
Right.
Yep.
But I mean, for right now this season, I believe Ben's Champions has a better team, so I'm going to give him the nod at number 6.
And I want to make a few comments about Pine Tree Lane because it's a whole team of young guys. And when I made my list here for the average age, I couldn't get over. It was like boom, 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 25, 25, 25, 26, 25. And then that's when I realized that he was turning over way faster than I think anybody realized. Now, here are some things that just glowing marks that we'll figure out. Can Schwarber rebound? If he rebounds, that works at Pine Tree Lane's favor.
I think he needs to get traded in order for that to happen. I don't think he's going to do it as a Cub. That's just...
The whole team's bad. I mean, I got a bunch of Cubs, and I'm so frustrated that then I don't play them. Then they have a good day. I'm just
saying Schwarber in particular. I think if he went somewhere and could just hit and just be a DH, he'd be perfectly fine. But that's what he needs to do.
I think for Pine Tree Lane to be a playoff contender, he needs Russell to show up the second half of the year.
Yeah,
and Addison Russell, I mean, he's not even playing every day in some cases.
I know.
And I don't know if that's going to come back. Now, look, he's got some personal things going on. And that matters, especially if the MLB is saying, look, we might have to suspend you here. Because right now, the big thing is, if they think something happened, he's going to get some kind of suspension just because they got to show no tolerance.
Right.
I'll go through a couple other guys. A guy like Piscotty has not really materialized like we thought he would this year.
Not at all.
A guy like Margot is really good, but maybe this year San Diego is probably going to get some major beatdowns the second half of the year. It might be a lot of 0 for 4s. So I guess what I would say is the youth is there. The talent is there. I don't know that Pine Tree Lane can win a playoff game or a championship with this current roster on this year. But I like his roster. There's about 5 or 6 guys I would love to have. Yeah. And so I say, I don't think he makes the playoffs this year, but I do think he's got a good team.
So then we get to the number 5 team in the power rankings for you. Who is your number 5?
My number 5 is Ben's Champions. And of course, I am the GM and manager and owner of Ben's Champions. But I will just make one more comment about that team. And the comment is very basic. Either I need to show up against 5 Swords and then the week or 2 after, or I'm in trouble. I think I can't go 10 or 12 games back and then try to make a roaring comeback, which sometimes I do. What I would say is it's got to start. It's got to start now. And I mean, here's the deal. And I'm going to say this to you like I would say to everybody else. When you go down the list, who do you trade? I mean, at some point, you either have the best player at every position, or you have the guy that could be the best player at every position. So, I go down my list, and I have trouble, how do you get better from Bogarts? how do you get better, when you got certain guys in certain positions? So now you're saying, okay, so why are you still losing? That means the combination's not working. I got to get a better combination. Something is a miss, and right now it's batting average and on base percentage.
I mean, again, I've said this many times to you. It's nothing different.
Right.
I think you have to cut the 20 batters down to 15.
I do. I agree. I need to cut, not to 15.
Yeah.
I know what number I want to get to.
Right.
I think I'll get there.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have a little bit of a plan, some ideas in mind, but we'll see what happens.
And then just doing that in general would shore up the pitching staff a
Would
little
help,
bit.
yes.
So
but truthfully, my pitching staff has not been horrible.
No.
It's just that, I give a few categories away, and there are reasons for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, everybody has a different goal.
Right.
I always say to people, whether it's stocks or whether it's fantasy sports, everybody manages their account differently. Everybody has different goals in mind. So we sit here and we say, well, why did somebody do this? Well, maybe they're thinking differently than you are about their situation. So we'll see how it plays out. But I got to improve to stay where I'm at.
Now, my number 5 team is Zips. Zips is my number 5 team. He just beat me last week.
Oh, I love Zips.
Yeah. I mean, I do think Zips is he's probably the third most balanced team in the league. I don't know if that makes sense. He's got a little bit of everything. I don't think he has a lot of anything, but he has a little bit of everything, and that's enough to be where
Zips is not going to like this, because I know Zips' game.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to the playoffs and a lot of times gets to a championship year after year after year.
Mm-hmm.
Even though in the beginning of the year people look at the roster and they say, well, there's no stars, there's not many. Here's the thing about Zips. Zips knows how to win categories. That's what he does. He goes and he knows his system. What I say to people all the time is know who you are, know what your goals are. So, like, for example, I had a conversation with 5 Swords, and I said, 5 Swords, half the problem is every week I send you a text and you're looking for something different. Who are you and what do you want?
Yeah.
The thing about Zips is Zips knows who he is and he knows what he wants. And he takes that and he makes it better. He's been doing it to us year after year. He's awesome, one of the best GMs. I actually have him higher than 5 for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And, I bet he'll be higher than 5 again this year. I just think he's good.
So, who is your number 4 team?
My number 4 team is actually Zips.
Yeah, that's what I
and
figured.
and I say that only because of my glaring feelings for the top 3. But I will say this: number 4 is Zips. And when I look at the 3 people above him, on a week-to-week basis, Zips could beat any one of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
He also could lose. Zips is not maybe strong enough to have a bad week and still win. So he could lose to the teams below him too. But I have him right now number 4. I like his management. I like his roster. He needs more hitters, I think. I just think that, we get later in the year, there's more days off and things like that, and you're sitting there rolling out 13 guys and 5 don't play, then what? Then you're not even putting a full lineup together.
Right. Yeah. Now, my number 4 is Team Joe Boo. I'm on your side as far as he won the championship last year, so I give him a little bit longer rope. I know that the stars are showing age, especially Cabrera. I see a lot of his at bats, and boy, he doesn't look right. But I feel like maybe he could get a little, rejuvenated through the All-Star break. He actually doesn't. He gets a whole week off because he's not in the game.
Right.
That'll help him. So maybe he can have a strong second half. I think that would help him a lot. And maybe this is the year that Springer doesn't get hurt.
That could be.
And if that's the case, I mean, that's
And
legit.
let me just make a shout out to the GM. Torres, I'm on to you. You play stupid. You act like you don't care. Oh, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I watched the moves you make. The moves you made last year in the last month was like a surgeon just literally cutting up opponent after opponent after opponent. So I don't really buy just let things happen. Yeah, I think that you're smarter and you know more about fantasy baseball and you probably put more time in it than we give you credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And you are the champ. And until we beat you, you're still a champ. But we do want to beat you.
Yes. I do believe he has a lot of disposable time at work. You know what I mean?
Yes, I'd say it's a good thing baseball season doesn't coincide with tax season.
Yeah, it's true.
I would like maybe 1 year for that to happen, and then we'll see how lucky we are.
So then we get to your top 3. Who is your number 3 team?
Globo Gym, love time. Woo! Globo Gym
Yes.
has, for me, the best roster. And that's including the fact I just got destroyed by Team V. when I look at Globo Gym's roster and I look at fantasy performance in a championship week, you need guys who have the potential to go off.
Mm-hmm.
Donaldson could go off, needs to warm up the second half of the year.
Right.
Blackman can have a go-off week, especially if there's 7 games there back in Coors Field. Arenado, same thing. Encarnacion, now that it's hot, can go off. Let me just put a caution out there. Globo Gym, this average age thing was stunning to me. And there's a lot of things that happen to those older guys. Injuries, knick-knackies, Sundays off, things like that. I mean, I can tell you right now, Ryan Braun, I mean, Milwaukee's having the dream year. Braun's been there for like 3 or 4 years, probably just praying, I wish we were good. And now they're awesome, and the guy plays half the time because injuries, age, all those things come into play. So, Donaldson hasn't really stayed healthy the last couple of years, and now he looks like he's not quite as healthy, So I would say this, Globo Gym, I would not want to face you in a 1-week playoff with this lineup and with your pitching staff because you have the guys that can just light out people. But there are injury risks and there is some depth issues. So that's why he's number 3.
Now, Globo Gym is also my number 3. But I think there's glaring issues in his pitching staff. That's the problem.
I actually 100% agree.
That's the reason why I think he will struggle in the playoffs. And obviously, we still have 7 or 8 weeks until the playoffs.
That's right.
But I mean, Darvish has not looked good recently at all.
No.
Archer's still up and down. You never know which Archer.
Archer is one of those guys that in name, in real baseball, you want him. But the fact is, he gives up a lot of hits. He's not afraid to give up 4 or 5 runs if he has to. So at the end of the year, he's better in real life than he is in fantasy.
I agree with that,
and
too.
That's one of those things. And so you could almost make that argument for a guy like Cole Hamels. Now, Hamels have a good play, but now the second half of the year, pitching Texas Heat, you know how that goes. I just think there's a lot to work there. And the question, Ivan Nova, for example, is having a great year. But can Nova do it all year? The Pirates always pack it in September and usually the end of August. They may trade everybody away.
They'll even trade Nova.
And so, or Nova included.
Yeah.
So again, I think depth is a huge problem. I think Globo Gyms 1 to 10 can beat anybody, but those last 4 or 5, last 4 or 5 could be trouble.
And
Dude,
why?
we're on the video, man.
Also, another issue that I have, Johnny Cueto does not seem like Johnny Cueto this year. I don't know what his deal is. I know that back before, now we're going back, 7 or 8 years, when he was in original prospect status with Cueto, people thought he was going to have control issues because of his weird delivery. But now it seems like that's what's coming to fruition this year.
Yes.
He is having a lot of control problems.
Again, I'll say it again. Globo Gyms would not want to face him 1 week, but I don't know that I would want to own this roster walking into the playoffs today because any week, this whole thing could fall apart.
All right, so who is your number 2 team?
Number 2 team is Bear Bashers. I got bashed by Bear Bashers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I have a very close analysis of the team. And I'm going to give you a few names as to why Bear Bashers is so good. And I don't like it, but these are the facts. Much like Globo Gyms, Travis Shaw was a great transaction. Your transaction of Justin Turner is egg on the face of everybody. Now, I will tell you guys something that he doesn't know. I don't remember when you added Justin Turner. I don't even remember if it was last year sometime. I had Justin Turner on the queue up, and I clicked enter thinking that I got him. And I refreshed the computer, and I didn't get him. Because you had added Justin Turner at the exact same moment, at the exact same time, in whatever year. I thought it was 2 years ago, but you said last year.
It was last year.
And the reason why was at that point he got cut because he was kind of in a slump, and then maybe he was hurt or something. I don't remember what it was.
Team Joe Boo had him. Yeah.
The thing about Justin Turner is he's like Donaldson. He's like some of these other guys. Not a prospect. Not good to look at. He's not 6'3", 220. He doesn't look like a superstar. He just fills stats. He's David Murphy. He's, like we talked about Donaldson. These are the guys that fill categories in an ugly way. They were never prospects.
Right.
Their original teams don't even like them. I mean, think about it. The Mets couldn't wait to get rid of Murphy. I mean, they just couldn't wait to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Turner was cut by like 3 different teams. They find a home, they get some starting time, and then they thrive. Mm-hmm. And the thing is these guys, they're not afraid because they've been in slumps and they've been cut before. Sometimes, and I'll go back to Manny Machado, Manny has never sucked before.
No.
So he sucks, and you can see on his face, he doesn't know what to do because he never sucked before.
Right.
Justin Turner has been cut 3 times and been benched probably 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. When he has a bad 0 for 4 day, he can go home and not sweat about it because he's like, hey, this is way better than it used to be. Mm-hmm. Fear is gone. Once you take fear away, that's when talent can emerge. Sometimes the best thing to happen is to get cut or to get fired or to lose your gig or not be considered relevant. In Justin Turner's case, no one gave him a chance. He was an Oriole. He was a Met. Do you think both those teams could use Justin Turner right now? When you've been cut, when no one cares about you, you rise above that and you become the real deal. Mm-hmm. You're almost unstoppable.
Yeah.
And you got a few other guys like that. Let me continue. I know I stopped there. Duvall. It's the same story. No one cared about you. You're a prospect no one wanted. They put you in because they had no spot for you. They had 0 expectations for you. So you thrive. Yeah. Eric Thames. He taunted MLB like 3 weeks ago. He said, please come over and test my blood some more. Mm-hmm. He taunted them. So he was, no regard whatsoever. You got another guy, Chris Taylor, that looks like might be in the same mold. Mm-hmm. His average started to come back to earth a little bit. Mm-hmm. But he's filling categories. Yeah. Matt Adams, same boat. St. Louis, whose lineup is terrible, couldn't give the guy at-bats. Mm-hmm. He goes to Atlanta, which is a great stadium for him, and just starts raking. And here's what happens. He gets up in the morning and he says, this is my second chance. Yeah. Guys that have that feeling don't give it up without a fight. I don't see Matt Adams fading the second half of the year. So I will tell you what I think of your team. You're not going to like part of it, but you'll like the overall. You're like the 93 Philadelphia Phillies. Mm-hmm. You got a bunch of guys, this might be their year altogether, that 3 years from now, they might all be banjo players again, but right now they're making beautiful music. It's true. So the one thing that you have to worry about is if the music stops. You know what I mean? If all of a sudden Chris Davis does have his 130 batting average week, and Matt Kemp gets hurt, and Andrews decides he's done playing because the Texas is out of it, and Justin Turner gets hurt, and Lindor doesn't stop realizing he's not a home run hitter. I mean, there are plenty of holes that I could see the whole thing crashing. But as they're doing right now, the lineup is good. And the pitching, I like your pitching because Santana with Twins is fine. A couple bad starts, but he's fine. Robbie Ray looks good, and they look good, obviously. Chris Sale, who I traded to you, has so far not felt any effects of Red Sox and Fenway,
which I care.
He's just too good. I traded him because I say that, it's Fenway. He's going to give up 4 runs like David Price does every start, even though he's good. It's just too hard there.
He's way better than Price. That's the difference.
He's a killer. And then you have guys like underrated like Straley and Fears, and they might not be guys that you even have a month from now, but they're in there. So your team is number 2. You don't have many players that I would want. You don't have many guys that I think are like, oh, I'm going to build my franchise. Because a lot of them are 30 or 31. But they're doing it right now. And I mean, you got to ask yourself, okay, I got Chris Bryant with 16 homers and 38 RBIs. I could trade him for anybody. But the fact is, on a week-to-week basis, he's underperforming Justin Turner. He's underperforming Matt Adams over the last month. So, what's better? Well, right now in 2017, it's better to be you than it is to be, full of Gold Star prospects.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked at just about everything that the Defense Champions here said. I agree with. So, because I'm sort of in a situation where I'm trying to get guys that have career years. I'm trying to win right now.
Right.
Well, I'll worry about next year.
Flags fly forever. I had to get it in today. Let me repeat that. Flags fly forever.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's the one disagreement that me and thee always have is I don't even remember who won the regular season last year. Do you?
I think it was Elastic Glaciers.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure
nobody
about that,
cares.
but I think.
We only care about the champion.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is the championship is everything.
Mhm.
And so that's the one thing I will say is when your roster is built for regular season, you gotta win in the postseason too. So
Right.
flags fly forever. Joe Boo did it. I despise the way he did it last year. He just crushed everybody. And that's why he's a champ, and that's what you want. And so you're right. At this point in the game, I'd throw all caution to the wind and just blow out at this
That's right.
point. What do you got to lose?
That's right. And the number 2 team I have also is myself, but I don't need to talk about it anymore. He did a great job.
I killed it.
Yep. So who is your number 1 team?
Number 1 team that I also got beat by severely this past week is Team V.
Mhm.
And I will give a detailed analysis of V. I'm sure he will appreciate that as well.
He will.
Here's the thing about Team V, and then I will tell you my cautionary tale for Team V. First of all, every day he hit 350. It was just category after category. He just kept filling categories because all his guys were hitting. I made a tactical mistake early on that instead of me trying to go get, I assumed that I would just get home runs, RBIs, and stolen bases. So I said to myself, I'm going to try to compete in batting average early in the week. And by Thursday or Friday, I should have gave up on that. That was a stupid idea. I should have said, look, you can win home runs any week you want to, so just go win that. That's what I should have did. Didn't do it. But take all that as it is. That's still only 3 categories. I lost like 13-2 or whatever. His pitching, his good pitchers are really good. His good hitters are really good. Your Vados, your Altuves, your
Murphy.
yeah,
Doesn't that make you mad?
yeah. Well, I mean, Murphy's Murphy is not a sexy Major League Baseball star, but every year in fantasy, he just fills the categories. He just keeps on rolling. Okay, and he's got Freeman coming back, and he's got Trout will soon be back, and so the roster is loaded with these guys that hit average and fill categories. Okay, however, I'll go to the pitching also. The pitching is equally as good. Okay, those top 3 or 4 are with everybody else, and it's so, you know, like I said, they're so good because they just show up week after week after week, and that's what you want.
Yeah, and he even has Baumgartner coming back. So.
Yeah. Although I mean, San Francisco's so bad, it's like Buster Posey. Buster Posey's kind of a wasted year there. That you know.
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, as far as pitching goes, though, that's sort of different.
That's right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on his team in town?
I mean, to put it in perspective, my record right now is 129-85. That's really, really good. I'm 19 games behind him.
Yeah.
That's how much he is.
Just crushing everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, he's lost 2 weeks for a total of 4 losses.
That's right.
That's it.
Yep. I 100% agree.
So, I mean, that's how good he has been.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, we get a lot of criticism on how much we talk about how good the team is, but it is. It is.
It's
There's
good.
nothing you can say.
Yep.
I'm hoping that somebody else beats him in the playoffs because I'm probably not going to. That's right.
There is one spot, he knows this because he knows that I keep data that most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Stars win championships. And he knows I say that all the time. I once went back and looked year after year after year, and I looked at the team that won the championship and the team that lost the championship matchup. And I said, which team had more stars for that year? Yeah. And in most cases, that's the team. In fact, to be honest with you, it's undefeated. The team with the most stars won the championship in that matchup. Mm-hmm. My question is, do I want to go to a championship matchup with Didi Gregorius as my only shortstop? And he played an outfield that included guys like Tommy Pham this week, which, again, this week crushed me.
Right.
But I don't know that those are the guys that I think are going to take me to championship. Those are the kind of guys that could have a really great August, and all of a sudden in September, when the pretenders and contenders are competing in a different way, they don't show up anymore.
That would be the only thing that I could see that could derail him.
And his pitching was top-heavy.
Yeah,
when I mean by top-heavy, it was his best pitchers are really good. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, some of those other guys, you know, like I said, I would take Scherzer any day. Mm-hmm. You take DeGrom any day.
Yeah, but see, DeGrom's the kind of guy who he could shut him down.
Well, the thing with the Mets, look, I got to be honest, I have steered clear of the Mets as much as possible because some teams are just snake bitten. And you're right. DeGrom one day could step out of the shower funny. And if the Mets are out of it, they will say, you're done for the year.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you got this great pitcher. You got nothing to show for it. And then, like, I don't personally, I've never been a Lance Lynn fan. He had a couple great starts against me. But he's the kind of guy that might be the week that Lance Lynn, this stuff isn't all there. And Lance Lynn, again, let me go back to this theory here. If you're not a stud and you're a pitcher, they'll leave you out there till kingdom come.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a gem, they get you out as soon as you start struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're Lance Lynn,
Lance Lynn's getting traded, by the way.
when you're Lance Lynn, okay,
That's what I think's going to happen.
well, and that might happen.
I think the Cardinals are going to sell a little bit.
But if you're Lance Lynn in the second inning, if they realize you don't have it, it don't matter. You're getting a 10 spot put on you, and your fantasy team's just totally wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I always try to go for prospects for pitchers, because I know when you bring in those guys that aren't that special, they'll leave them out there and let them get destroyed because they're like, well, it's Lance Lynn.
Yeah, and that could be another thing that hurts his pitching staff. Like we said, if Lynn gets traded, you don't know where he could end up
I'm
going.
only referencing a week-to-week basis, though. Like,
Right.
I say he wins regular season, he'd have to self-destruct or get a lot of injuries.
I don't think it's
He
possible
wins the
for him,
regular
yeah.
season, he should do well in the playoffs. But I'm just saying, in a championship setting, there are holes. I'm sure he'll try to address them over the next couple weeks. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, D's number one.
It hurts.
It does. We're not very
We
happy
both
about
got
it.
stomped. We
Yeah.
know it feels.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess, is there anything else that you have to say? Anything
No,
else you want to say?
I just want to say it has been a fun year so far. And it's been competitive for most of us. Obviously, now there's like 5 of us within the last 4 spots of the playoffs that will have a nice battle, maybe even 6. Just keep doing what you're doing, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Keep having fun out there. And, Ben's Champions is always open for business. So, come look my way if you want to make a deal here or there.
This has turned into a commercial.
And yeah, as always. But here's the thing. Don't send me for another 250 hitter with 16 homers and 50 RBIs, because I got 12 of those guys. And, I need batting average, and that's it. But I will just say that I think the next 7 weeks are going to be pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that there is a surprise in store. I don't know what it is yet. Maybe somebody rises from the bottom and just explodes higher. Maybe somebody at the top totally caves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody in the playoffs that's a number 5 or number 6 seed just ramps through. I am calling right now for a massive surprise in the next 7 to 8 to 9 weeks in our league. And I don't even know what it is right now. I'm not saying that I even have any idea, because I don't.
Yeah.
I'm calling massive surprise.
I do think that one thing that could turn things topsy-turvy, I think the trade deadline is going to be really, really busy. I think there's a lot of teams that have to unload salary, and there's a lot of teams who thought they were going to compete that aren't competing.
Right.
So I think that could just, guys going to different places, you never know. It could be good, it could be bad for players. Sometimes,
And another trend that we have to watch is, and it's coming from basketball, by the way, this started in the NBA, is shutting people down when you're not going to win.
That's true.
And in the old days, they didn't do that. But in baseball, it's happening more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, if you're looking at your team right now, and your best 7 or 8 players are on the worst 7 or 8 teams in MLB, you better have a backup plan. Because, I'll say it again, they're not going to run out a pitcher who's a stud.
Not a pitcher, no.
With the last 5 weeks of the year, if there's just a little something funky going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
And now, that guy carried you all the way, but now you don't have anything, okay? Where you have a guy like Robbie Ray. Arizona has not been in the playoffs in years.
Mm-hmm.
They'll throw that guy out there till his arm falls off, because this is their shot, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, right now, if I own Robbie Ray, he's untouchable, because I know he's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I own Alex Wood. It's going to take a boatload to get Alex Wood from me, because I know they need him to get there. Bumgarner, for example, San Francisco. Maybe they decide in the middle of September or the end of August.
So you're telling me I should try to trade James Paxton because Seattle's going to be out of it by the end of the year?
Seattle's weird though. They never really stop going. Do you know what I mean?
I know,
Yeah, they're
they
a
don't.
different team. Like they don't just pack it in per se.
They don't.
It's a team to team basis. But we did talk about one of those teams, and that's the METS Mets. And Matt is a Mets fan, so he probably knows this. But their management is too confusing with the Mets. I mean, any fantasy player from the Mets, you just have to sort of like cross your fingers.
Mhm.
They don't get hurt, or the Mets don't think of something silly because they do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's the end of this
Yes.
one.
Yeah. Hope you all have a great week.
Yes. And next week will be. Well, actually, they probably won't even have one next week because there's no.
Yeah, you decide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see. I'll have to talk to the commission, see if he wants to have a show about not a lot of fantasy because there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see when we come back. Not sure. See you later. Bye.